Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Karis May, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Lieutenant Commander Annette Nelson. We are honoured to acknowledge members of the 4th Field Troop Royal Australian Engineers 11 Independence Squadron Reunion Group here tonight. We welcome all the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony from around Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors and students on behalf of the following schools. From New South Wales, Ultimo Primary School, and from Victoria, Nagambie Primary School. To commence this evening's ceremony, I invite you all stand and join in singing the National Anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed at the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and other operations for over more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we pay tribute to Private Edward Newby. Born in Albany, Western Australia on the 27th of December 1905, Edward William Newby was the son of Thomas and Alice Newby. Known to family and friends as Ted, Edward Newby was 34 years old when he enlisted in the 2nd Australian Imperial Force in August 1940. He was married to Mary, with whom he had a son, Alan, and was working as a clerk. Newby had previously served in the 44th Battalion of the Militia. In April 1941, he embarked for overseas service. Arriving in the Middle East in May, he completed training in Palestine and in August was posted as reinforcement to the 2nd 28th Battalion, part of the 24th Brigade of the 9th Division. Edward's brother Joe was also a member of the battalion. At this time, the 2nd 28th Battalion was in the midst of the siege of Tobruk. The 9th Division had become surrounded at Tobruk the previous April. Besieged, the Australians helped defend the Tobruk fortress for the next 6 months. During the siege, Newby was wounded, suffered gunshot wounds to a knee and upper arm. After being evacuated from Tobruk, he spent several months recuperating. In September, the 2nd 28th were evacuated by sea to Alexandria, from where it returned to Palestine. The 24th Brigade later moved to Syria and then Lebanon for rest, training and garrison duties. During this time, Newby returned to the battalion, having recovered from his wounds. By July 1942, the war in North Africa had become critical for the British. The Germans and Italians had reached El Alamein in Egypt, about 70 miles from Alexandria, and so the 9th Division were rushed to the front. The 2nd 28th reached the Alamein front on the 10th of July, and the division attacked a week later. During the attack on Ruin Ridge on the 27th of July 1942, Edward Newby and his brother Joe were captured and became prisoners of war. The 2nd 28th suffered heavily at Ruin Ridge. 65 officers and men from the battalion and its support units were killed or wounded. Nearly 500 were captured and became prisoners of war. Of those who participated in the attack, only 92 men remained. After a period of captivity in Libya, Edward was transported to Italy, where he was held in transit camps before arriving at Campo number 57, Agripiano. The condition of the prisoners arriving from Libya was poor. The camps in Libya were not well organised, there had been a lack of food and basic amenities, and camp conditions were substandard. Following their arrival at Agripiano, there was an outbreak of beriberi and other food deficiency-related diseases. Edward Newby died at Agripiano on the 7th of December 1942. Officially, he died of bronchopneumonia and severe organ failure, although his brother also reported that Edward had also suffered greatly from malnutrition. Edward Newby was 34 years old. Writing about his funeral service, the New Zealand padre, Robert McDowell, wrote, "The day broke fine, calm, cloudless. A watch had been stationed at the body in a room adjoining the hospital since the lad's death on Monday morning. The recreation hut was prepared as a church, a small pulpit made of stools and draped with blanket and sheets, a resting place for the coffin just in front. At 8:45 the men were assembling, 3,500 of them, along the road through the camp. Newby's body was taken by a hand-pushed hearse to be buried near the camp at Agripiano. His body was later reinterred at the British and Commonwealth War Cemetery at Udine, Italy. Edward's brother Joe later escaped from Italian captivity, making it to neutral Switzerland and surviving the war. Edward Newby's name is listed on the roll of honour to my left, among some 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Edward William Newby, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this evening's last post ceremony. We would like to thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today, and we wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.